You're listening to JenEric Endtalkers, a Final Fantasy XIV podcast. And now, your hosts, Jen and Eric. Welcome back to JenEric Endtalkers. I'm Eric. With me, as always, is Jen. And today, this is our very first live podcast, but not only our very first live podcast, but our very first podcast where we're featuring guests. And those guests are our very dear friends, Bryan and Lyuba. Say hello, Bryan and Lyuba.
Hey, yeah.
Okay.
Hello. We looked at each other like, who's going to talk first?
It was funny because I was just like, say hello, and there was nothing. And I was like, oh. Okay.
Well, I forgot to say hello earlier, too. Like, I just waved, and I forgot. Podcast. You know, it's hard. Things are hard sometimes, you know?
Anyways, so, yeah, we are here talking to Bryan and Lyuba. We're going to talk some Final Fantasy XIV, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But first, let's talk about what has happened with us in Final Fantasy XIV this week. The car. We all bought a new car. Well, not we all.
Not technically.
Not we all. Retro has had a car for a little while. Okay. And if you want to rub it in our faces, Retro.
I had the car before it was cool.
There you go.
You're so retro. Yeah. So the first time that the event came out, which I think was during Heaven's Word, Retro got the car. I was trying to grind the NGP for it and didn't get it in time. But we have it now, and so does like everyone else, it seems. But
Like you said
It looks
earlier,
like LA out there, man. It
like
just
you
looks
said,
like LA traffic.
you said earlier, Eric, like we were going place to place and like forgetting we had the
we
car.
forgot we had the car.
Yeah.
But I think that from what we've been told, Yoshi P said that this is the last time they were going to do this event. So after this, we'll all be the cool kids with the car. For anybody who doesn't have it. But
I mean, like when Final Fantasy's at its peak of subs and everybody's
getting it pretty much. Oh, it was Stormblood. I'm sorry. It was Stormblood. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because I was playing. That was when I was playing and Jen was not during
Right.
Stormblood. So anyway, yeah.
We're in 5.3.
We are in 5.3. I don't know if you guys are, were watching just now, but we had
so good.
some pretty crazy stuff
So
going on.
we ended like the part of the MSQ, like goosebumps. Like,
Yeah, that was
We're
awesome.
right in between the duty and the trial. So
We have a seat on the fort. We're one of the convocation of the 14. Oh yeah,
excited.
yeah, because
Super
we got a Magic Jolly Rancher. And then and Elidibus took the form of like the Warrior of Light and everything. That was really cool. Like the OG Warrior of Light gear. So that's gonna be really fun. We're gonna do that on Sunday on our stream. We are going to be doing that trial. If you guys want to come and hang out and watch that and see our reactions and stuff.
Did y'all do anything in game this week?
Yeah, what about
that
you
was
guys, Bryan and Lyuba?
notable?
Honestly, since I started the Black Mage, I'm like in love with it. So I'm just going through
Nice.
all the story and then just enjoying the rotation. I think because I started as Summoner
Right.
and then I went Red Mage and then Dancer. And now that I'm Black Mage, I'm like in love with the story and the character. And I haven't had
Nice.
that feeling like for a while. So I'm super excited.
So the
Oh, I
Black
love
Mage
it.
story is what you mean?
Like the Black Mage story and just like the rotation and feel of it.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
awesome.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't really tried a whole bunch of different classes besides Ninja, so I definitely need to. I feel like probably going to stay Ninja. I really love the way that Ninja plays. But yeah, it's always good to try other classes and stuff because, we actually have your class on here as Black Mage because Bryan was like, pretty sure she's never going back. So
Pretty sure she ain't coming back. I love it.
she
I'm
doesn't
glad
want
that
to
you
be
found-
Dancer.
I'm glad that you found something that you're like, okay, this feels like home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Faux show.
That's awesome. What about you, Bryan? You got anything going on in game?
I finished my healer journey.
Yes.
I've never healed in an MMO from vanilla WoW all the way through any MMO I've ever played. I never healed. Never healed. I always DPS. And then I got to Final Fantasy and I was like, you know what? Let's try tank. Fell in love with tanking. And then Shadowbringers took tank and just kind of turned it on its head. made it a little bit easier, changed the way enmity works, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's also Gunbreaker. Hello, who doesn't want to be Squall, right? And so since then it was like tank, and just out of nowhere I was like, you know what, try healer. So I took healer all the way to 80. Then I took almost everybody in the trust system to 80. We only got like a couple of classes left. And then I finished my glam, which is the last dungeon of Shadowbringers, and I had to farm it
Oh, yeah, I remember you talking
and
about that.
over
Yeah.
and
The
over.
rage.
And
But
you're
I finally got it.
You're
Yeah.
a white mage, is what you mean.
Yes, my
yeah.
white mage healer. So I had to like stress heal the last dungeon over and over, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Aw.
That's
awesome.
So, do you think that you're going to? Are you going to main a healer? Do you want to main a healer, or you think you're sticking to tank?
No.
So quick with that answer.
No.
There was like a little
will-
laugh in that.
I think the way, like, I don't know, like I will probably with Endwalkers, I will level Gunbreaker.
Yeah.
I'll probably level my 3 tanks, right? My Gunbreaker, my Paladin eventually, and my Dark Knight. And then I will probably level White Mage because it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I can do it professionally. And then I'll probably try Sage just to kind of see a different style of healer. And then
Reaper.
I don't know about Reaper because
Really?
it just looks like Dragoon, and I'm just like,
But I love Dragoon, though.
I wasn't a. I don't have enough fingers to do Dragoon rotation.
Dragooner. You know what? You're not cut out for Dragoonery.
No,
You know,
Dragoonery.
the Dragoonery.
But that's wholesome.
I'm the right kind of tank, not the full tank.
Everyone's got a role that they like that the other's like,
I
no.
feel like in Final Fantasy XIV, Dragoon is almost like the same as Hunter in World of Warcraft, where people always like shat on Hunter. Like
Yeah.
they were the butt of the jokes all the time, and I feel like in Final Fantasy XIV, that's Dragoon. Like it's the same.
100%. Everybody wanted to shat on the hunters until you could double trap in Burning Crusade, and then it was like, oh wait, you can do that, yeah. I was a Burning Crusade hunter main, so I
Nice.
played Warrior in WoW like for freaking ever, and then Death Knights came out, and then I'm like, oh, these are the best.
So, is there anything else besides the car event? So we know we have a new letter from the producer live tomorrow, I believe is when it's happening.
The live letter, yeah,
With
with live translation, I believe,
that's cool.
which is great.
I think that's really the only thing. Looks like there's like some new music. I think that's it though.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're pretty much just filling time till November.
until
I think
we
we're
go
like
to the moon.
2 months away, right? 2 months away from
Yep,
pre-launch.
Yep.
headed to the moon. We're gonna get
Okay.
there. We're gonna get there before Bezos.
Yeah.
Take that, Bezos.
Shit.
Also, oh no, I forgot what it was. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Did you have a blind moment?
We talked about the moon and it was over.
The moon.
I
All good
lost
games.
it.
All good games into the moon.
Yeah. So
Oh, I experienced Boja. I don't know if y'all.
we haven't gotten to that yet. We've heard people like in chat
Heard.
talking it and stuff like that, but we haven't had any experience with it yet. So
Spoiler.
It is super fun. I like it.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
really? That's
okay,
good.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy it there, but I'm also kind of a grindy person.
so is Boja is what, the new Palace of the Dead kind of thing?
It is. Think of it. It's more like a zone that it's fates, right?
Okay.
Like so, you have just fates, and you do these fates that they call skirmishes, and then every so often you'll get a critical. I think it's like a critical strike or something of that nature, and you register for it. And those are like big boss fights.
Oh, okay.
Just in the open, like boss fates.
Yeah, like
Okay.
world bosses.
And you're like
kinda.
building up your resistance level because you're the Bojin resistance. So you're fighting against the Garleans.
Oh, okay.
And so you're building up your resistance level, and eventually you get to like resistance level 10. And if you die, you lose resistance points. And so as you get to 10, then you can do there's a dungeon in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a dungeon, and it is super fun.
Sweet.
It's a Castrum dungeon, and it was a lot. I've done it a couple of times, and it's super fun.
Nice. Well, it's
That's how I leveled in like 4 days.
something that we'll get to once we're done with the MSQ.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 million XP for a
Dang.
boss fight.
Wow.
For a boss fight. Yeah, it's insane.
So, unrelated to Final Fantasy XIV, like we said, Bryan and Lyuba are two of our best friends, but we wanted to.
Well, we got to go back in
Let's
time.
go back a little bit. We actually were looking
No.
into this last night.
Yo, I got on
Oh.
Facebook and I was like, need to find the things, need to find the things.
We discovered that we had met Bryan back in 2014, right? Is that what we?
No,
2013.
it was 2013.
2013.
March.
Okay.
2013.
So the beginning of 2013. And we had a table at a convention. It was actually just a toy show. It was a very small thing. And Bryan had walked up and looked at our art and everything. And it's funny because we have a picture and we couldn't find it. We need to look for it, and maybe I'll post it up in the Discord. But we have a picture of the day that we met Bryan. Like it's kind of weird.
Like,
to-
how many people can say that? Like, I
Yeah.
have a picture the day that
like
we
the
met.
day that we met. It wasn't like the first time we hung out after meeting or anything like that. It was like the day that we met, because the reason we did that was when we were doing conventions back then, we were doing them with Artist Table, and I was, doing my art. And Jen decided to start trying to make some crafts to sell, and so she started doing the bead art, like the little bead pixel art. And she had made this one where she took a canvas, she had painted the canvas and put like little stars or something on it, and she made a bead art of Navi from Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and she had put it on there, so it was like the background. And that's what Bryan bought. Like, the first time that me and my best friend met, he actually bought art from my wife, but not from
I
me.
love that.
There was so much art that you could have gotten from me, but you decided you were going to buy the stuff from Jen. But anyways, yeah, so we took a picture of Jen and Bryan, like,
With the little
because I think it was like the first art that she had sold or something
yeah,
like that.
I think it was.
It was the perler bead stuff, yeah. And yeah, that was really, it's just kind of interesting to me even to this day that we had a picture of when we first met. And then we were actually trying to figure it out last night, Bryan.
I don't
Do you
remember
remember how the YouTube channel had popped up when we first met and you were talking to us at the table?
I don't.
It's so long
I was telling
ago.
Eric, I was like,
Yeah.
I think that it had to have been some kind of connection between, we love Zelda, and then Eric being like, oh yeah, look at my tattoo, and then like video games must have came in, and then being like, oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel, and like, oh, I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel, like you should be a guest. Like,
'Cause
I
then
think that's kind of what we think happened.
Bryan was running his YouTube channel, Strictly Nerd, at the time, and he had me on for a few episodes of their like the talk show they were doing called Nerds of the Round. And he was like, hey, you want to be a guest? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then it ended up, we just became friends, and it became like a permanent thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting that we had that photo of when we met.
Oh, that was cool.
I think I have that one on maybe it's on my Facebook. I don't know.
Yeah,
it
I
might
have no
be,
idea. We
yeah.
couldn't find it. Like, I know we have it somewhere. I just couldn't find it last night.
And then it's funny because so the entire time you've known us, you've known me, Bryan, you've known Jen as well. So I thought that was like, because it was one of those things I never think about, but I was like, yeah, well, we've known each other together, and then we have known you for a while, and then you met Lyuba, your lovely bride, your lovely Russian bride that you. It's 100% not mail order. We promise.
How did what's the story?
Dang it!
People get money out of this.
What's the story behind what is y'all's meet cute?
Yeah, how did you
how
guys
did y'all meet?
Oh, it's totally shady. I'm kidding. So I started playing Final Fantasy because I'd played all the single player ones. Like 8 was my favorite. I did 7, 6, the whole shebang. And this was my first an MMO experience for it with Final Fantasy. And I got to the first dungeon, and I didn't want to play with people I didn't know.
So it was Sistasha?
I think so. And so I went on Facebook and I went into this Final Fantasy Facebook group. I was like, someone please help me.
Help.
I don't want to play without any guidance, essentially. And I get it. Like, you can go on YouTube, you can watch it, but the whole point of the game was to play with people you enjoy. And so there was like 100 comments.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Dang.
And so,
Popular
like,
Luba.
3 or 4 people made a Dragon Age reference, and I was like, okay, we're honing it.
There you go. You have to find out, like, out of that many people, you have to figure something out, right?
Yeah, like, I'm like, they're all different servers. It was super overwhelming. But he made the cut, and then we started playing.
Made the cut out of all your potential, like the potential, like senseis that you were looking for.
Right?
Who will guide me? You will be my tutor. I actually didn't realize that you hadn't been playing Final Fantasy 14 for very long before you met Bryan. I didn't realize that you were that new to the game.
Yeah, like, I was a sprout. I called my character the little nun kitty because she was in her robe.
Okay,
And
yeah.
she looked like a little nun. I didn't know anything about G posing. I didn't know anything about glamour. I was still learning how to put, like, all my rotations on the bar.
Nice.
And so, like, one time I was trying to spam heal an enemy that I was trying to attack. It was a whole hot mess.
It was
Wow.
like the ladybugs in
Yes.
in Limsa. And like I'm just making sure she's not dying, right?
Yeah.
And so I see her stop in front of this ladybug, and all of a sudden it's just like cure on herself. And I was like,
What's she doing?
wait. I was like, and so I was like, no, you have to click on the monster. And she was like, oh, I was healing myself. I was like, yeah, you were.
I felt so bad because I was like, this dude is probably going to be like this dumb gamer girl. And I was like, I swear I played video games before.
Oh, that's funny.
Now, people are probably going to assume that. So Luba's from Russia, but you weren't in Russia at the time. You were actually, you just so happened to be in Texas.
Just moved to Texas. Literally, right after I finished military, I moved to, like, Austin, Texas, and didn't know where Bryan lived. I didn't provide any of that information.
That's good.
We were just doing audio talks while I was playing because I needed real-time help because I was a problem child. And at one point, I think it was like a weekend, he was like, hey, by the way, we share a highway. And I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Hint, hint.
So then at some point we went and hung out, and the rest is history.
Yay.
Yeah, and then we were able to be there for when Bryan proposed.
Yeah.
We helped coordinate that whole thing. And Luba, did you have? I don't know if I ever asked you. Did you have an idea of what was going on? Were you suspicious?
No,
Really?
I was not suspicious.
Yeah, we did it, y'all. We did it.
Wow.
We did it. High fives all around.
So
'Cause the whole
we had-
plan-
we were like, oh, we're gonna all go. We're gonna have like a girls' day. We're gonna go do our nails. There was like a tea place in town, and I was like, oh, we can go do that. Like that's kind of like girls' day type of stuff. And then we're like, oh, we'll meet y'all at the
Sunken Gardens.
how was
Yeah,
it? Sunken
no.
Temple.
Sunken Temple. No, yeah, wrong game.
It's the Japanese tea garden.
Yeah.
And then when we got there, remember how many people were there?
Okay,
it was
it was
super
because
crowded.
of Pokemon Go.
Pokemon.
This was during the Pokemon Go hype. So me and Bryan show up there, and there was people everywhere, and we were like, well, so much for like a secluded kind of romantic thing. Like there's people all over the place. So we found like this area that was off away from everyone.
How long were y'all there before we had gotten there?
45 minutes.
Yeah,
gosh.
it wasn't too long.
But it was like it was because we used the YouTube channel at that time as an excuse. They were like,
Yeah.
Oh.
we were like, oh, Bryan and Eric gonna be shooting over here.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so let's just meet them and we'll all catch up or whatever.
That's right.
Luba, you weren't like, why are y'all going to be filming something at like a flower place?
If we knew
Right?
that Pokemon Go was just like it was going to be this big thing, because I'm pretty sure that there was an event going on that they had coordinated for Pokemon Go there. And so, like, if we knew that, we would have just used that as
Use
oh
that as
yeah,
the
there's an
excuse,
Pokemon
right?
Go event that we're going to be
I would
filming.
go, I'm sold.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It was like ultra rare shiny Squirtle day or something.
Yeah, something weird like that. But yeah, and then you guys got married a little while later, and we were there for that, which was awesome. And yeah, you guys have remained our best friends ever since. It's been
Yeah.
And then we went to Alaska.
and then we went to Alaska. That's right. That was y'all's honeymoon.
Yeah, and we crashed Cheryl's honeymoon.
Well, so what happened was we were like, we're going to Alaska. We wanted to go on a cruise to Alaska. We're like, we're going to go to Alaska. You guys should totally come along. And then you guys are like, well, we are going to be getting married, and that could be our honeymoon. So then you guys ended up just making it your honeymoon, and it was the most fun that we've ever had on a cruise. Like,
it was fun. It was
not
fun.
only because we went to Alaska, but also because you guys were there. Our friends Chris and Sarah were also with us, and it was just one of my fondest memories was that after we went and ate at the steakhouse, and everybody was drunk, except for me. Probably, I don't know.
what
Everybody
you're
else had
talking
been
about.
drinking. The girls were drunk. The
Gonna
ladies
plead
were drunk.
The fifth.
The ladies were definitely a little tipsy, and
They gave us free wine. What did you expect?
we walked outside onto the deck, and it was super windy, super foggy, and super cold. And you were all wearing dresses, and then like they all walked out, and
All
they
at
were
the
all
same
like,
time. We were
like
like,
holding their
"Ah!"
dress down, and then walked back inside. There's a picture that we took on the elevator for some reason where it's super blurry, and we're all laughing, and I'm like, that's a very good
We were laughing
representation.
because Sarah had
of
like an
that night.
open bottle of wine.
She had a
just
full
chugging
bottle of
it.
wine that she was chugging. Yeah, that was really fun. But
So-
anyways,
That's awesome.
yes.
I remember. What I was gonna say.
So you guys, Luba had mentioned just a minute ago that your history with Final Fantasy games in general, you played. Which was your Luba? Which was your first Final Fantasy game?
It was, I think the first one was 7,
Okay.
and then I fell in love with 8.
Okay. So you played 7 and 8. And Retro, what about you? You're probably similar to me in this respect.
Yeah, I've gone from 6 in down like 3 the same. But like, yeah, like I've did all the SNES stuff, and then 7 and 8 and 9, and I'm probably gonna catch so much crap for this, but
Uh-oh.
like 10, I got like halfway in, and I was like, this isn't for me.
No way, really?
Yeah, I was like, this isn't for me. And then 10-2, and I was like, that's definitely not
Okay,
for me.
10-2 is another story. 10 was good though. I liked 10, except for the laughing part. It was good. Actually, the worst thing about 10 was the main character.
Yes.
Was Titus or Titus, depending on how you say it.
I mean, I feel like the writers for 10 were busy just watching the Wonder Years, and they were
Okay.
like, let's make this into a game, because its voiceovers are so awkward.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, that's me. I'm wondering, you're wondering how I ended up here. You know? And I don't know, it was really kind of, to take a throwback to stream, it was kind of campy.
It was kind of campy. So, if Final Fantasy VIII is Luba's favorite, Retro, what's your favorite Final Fantasy game?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean,
It is. It's a hard one because Final Fantasy is a great series.
yeah. Like everybody's gonna say like I'm gonna have to like lean heavy on 7
Mm-hmm.
because I think maybe it's because the remake is so good.
Yeah.
Ugh, I need to
Like-
finish playing it.
The remake is so good because imagine like your favorite like your favorite meal, right? It's got all the layers,
Mm-hmm.
and then Gordon Ramsay comes in. He's like, "Here's your favorite sandwich, but I made it,
Yeah, yeah.
and I added like premier ingredients, and you eat it, and you're just like, this is what I've been missing."
Yeah,
And
and
so,
I'm sure it has like a nostalgic like aspect to it as well
Oh,
because
sure,
you played Final
sure.
Fantasy VII, the original, and Final Fantasy VII. I went back and forth between 6 and 7 being my favorite ones for a long time, but the more I think about it, the more I just love 6. And I know that you're a fan of 6. I mean, you use the name Locke on your characters and stuff like that. and then Jen, like we'd said, I think
Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14 is the first and only Final Fantasy game that Jen has played. But so that makes sense. Now, Luba, you had said that it was your first MMO, but you had played Elder Scrolls before that, hadn't you?
Yeah, it was my first like Final Fantasy MMO, and I didn't
okay.
know if there were like other ones because I played Elder Scrolls Online. I've done a lot on Xbox, and then like in the early 2000s, I was grinding on Diablo. But
Oh, okay. Diablo is So your first MMO would have been ESO then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems.
She was really good at it.
Oh, really?
Nice.
I had
Because
played.
I was like lost.
And you guys had connected because of Final Fantasy 14, but then you guys had also played ESO together.
I forced him.
And then Luba had played a little bit of World of Warcraft before we all kind of stopped playing it. And you were playing a Demon Hunter that you seemed to really enjoy.
She flew.
She flew.
She flies.
She flies.
It was a selling point. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a switch of roles because I would go through Final Fantasy and I was playing Dark Knight at the time, I think. And so I was just like running stuff and we were just running. And I was like, I got this. Look, let me show you this. Haha, look, haha. And then we went to ESO and she's like, I'm a master crafter and let me show you this. And she was tanking and she's like, oh yeah, you just do it like this. And, you did it. And so it was a complete like role reversal.
Yeah.
And so it was humbling to be on the other end of that stick.
Because you were the one teaching her in Final Fantasy, and then she's like, now I'm going to teach you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now I'm the senpai. So, Retro, what was your first MMO? I don't know if I've ever even asked you that.
I think it was vanilla.
Vanilla?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, that's like, what, circa 2004?
Yeah, it was like vanilla launch.
Yeah, gotcha.
A buddy of mine was like, I've been playing this game. It's really cool. And he was like telling me stuff. And I was like, that actually sounds like fun. And I had played Warcraft 2 and
exactly.
Tides of Darkness and Warcraft 3. And like, so I was like, oh, so it's just like an adventure game that's not an RTS. It's not an RTS. And he was like, kinda.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's see. And then I was like, MMOs are my jam.
Yeah,
so
this is my shit.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Guild Wars 2,
and then you were the reason that we started playing Final Fantasy 14. Back at the end of A Realm Reborn, the beginning of Heaven's Word. I honestly don't know what it was that you had said that convinced us. Because I
don't remember.
Yeah, because we were playing World of Warcraft, but it might have been one of those times where we were just kind of like, you know what, we're going to take a break. I think that we started playing Final Fantasy 14 during Warlords of Draenor. And so we were like, okay, Warlords of Draenor isn't really holding our attention, so let's give Final Fantasy 14 a try. And then we stuck with Final Fantasy 14 all the way through Heaven's Word into Stormblood, and that's when we kind of stopped playing. But it was one of those, like, Bryan was just like, you should play this game. I play this game. It's a lot of fun. And I've never been an anime fan, so I did have to get past that kind of mentality that a lot of people seem to have, where it's like Final Fantasy 14 is all a bunch of weebs and anime fans and all that kind of stuff. And though it does lend to anime, like that kind of culture more so than like World of Warcraft and stuff like that, I don't think it's to the point where it's like in your face. Though if you do the Hildebrand like questline, the Manderville questline, that's a mini anime right there. Just watch that. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's like the weebiest it gets. Like,
yeah, for real.
Is Manderville. But I think I felt like they did a really good job overall bringing in just all kinds of elements that are Final Fantasy, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And so you get the epic story, because there's always an epic story,
Mm-hmm.
and and then they brought in like all the they started bringing in the the bosses, so like Kefka and all that stuff. Like it's just like you're just blown away. Like it pulls you in nostalgia wise,
mm-hmm.
and you're just like, this is like it, right?
Like So Final Fantasy 14, I always say Final Fantasy 14 is a love letter to Final Fantasy because, and I think that Yoshi P had said that himself, like he was just that he wanted the game to pay homage to every single Final Fantasy before, and it pretty much has, you know.
I
mean,
agree.
there's a lot of things that they bring characters and enemies and abilities and armor and all this kind of stuff from the previous Final Fantasies that me and Bryan, as being, you know, people who have played a lot of the Final Fantasy games, and even Luba, who's played some of them before, can, you know, appreciate on a different level because we know these characters. It's like when I see Ultros or the fact that Kefka is a boss in the game, like those just make me happy, you know? So I think that it's if you are a fan of any of the Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy 14 is at least worth checking out. Especially if you like, I think that Final Fantasy 12 was when they went to, what is it, the real-time like fighting system, where it was a little bit different from, it wasn't like turn-based as much.
Yeah.
Which personally I didn't really like very much. I don't remember much of 12 because that was kind of when I started falling off the Final Fantasy franchise, you know, fan bus.
I'm not gonna lie to you, me too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it was like, because like 10, like I said, 10, I was just like, and
Yeah.
10-2, I was like, oh, is this what we're doing now? And then
rehash.
yeah, and then it got to 12, and I was like, I got other things going on, and so I kind of half-heartedly kind of got through to where it was, and then but I don't remember it very well. And then it was
a little bit of a
lightning,
pick-me-up. Just like, oh, disappointed again.
and then became lightning. First character to ever get a trilogy, and
See, and that was
history.
that's a series that I have not played. The Final Fantasy 13 games.
It's not bad, but that's
Um,
an event they've never brought back. I want you to know that.
Oh, the crossover event. They probably won't,
Mhm.
honestly.
I think it's because they put it in the Mog Station too early, and so
Oh.
it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, she used to have to follow her around and do fates,
hmm
and you got like her armor and then her weapon and her hairstyle. That was back when like the aesthetician was brand new. Like,
Oh.
I'm gonna start old man Final Fantasy in a
Yeah.
second.
So, out of all of the things like in Final Fantasy that like you have memories of and things like that, do y'all have like events that stick out, or do y'all have like a memory of something that happened like with y'all that like sticks out, that's your like favorite like memory from like playing Final Fantasy, or like beating a cool boss, or what would that be?
I think it's not necessarily a memory, but I like to piggyback off Eric. It brings in every single person that's played Final Fantasy series, and it gives you a little bit of piece of that. Like, you have a favorite race, cool, you can pick it, you can customize your character based on it. You have a favorite boss, you're gonna see them as boy. You like an outfit, like you want to be Squall, like go for it. Sky's the limit. So I think
And-
that's wholesome.
And then being able to bring in previous, like the stuff from the previous games, makes it gives them this like huge database of stuff that they can pull from, you know?
Right,
Like
that's
in
true.
Shadowbringers, this whole Crystal Tower stuff, it's all based on Final Fantasy 2, I think it was, that did the Crystal Tower things. And yeah, they're just like, well, remember that Crystal Tower concept we had in that one, you know, in that Final Fantasy? Let's bring that back and do something with that, you know? So that's also really cool. But even World of Warcraft technically kind of does that because they pull from, you know, the Warcraft series. But yeah, and then you guys had said already that your favorite, I don't know if Bryan, I know that Luba's favorite class to play now is Black Mage, but is Gunbreaker still your favorite, Bryan?
Yes, I like it as a, I mean, it's a viable tank option, but it's almost hybrid. Like, I feel like you can still kind of, if you do what you can do and you min max your rotation, and you can actually maintain an okay DPS. It's not great,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that, you know, it's still a very good option. And Gunbreakers, I've seen some Gunbreaker memes lately,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
feel like, I don't know if people are going to start turning on them soon,
Oh,
but I
no.
probably will not change unless there's a new class in like 7.0
Yeah.
or 8.0 that really just pulls me in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's an interesting thought, right? If you look at like all the classes, like think like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like
there's a lot of classes they could pull
a
from
lot of
too.
classes like you could pull from. Like the big one was when they announced
Blue Mage.
the
Oh,
the red mage, yeah,
Yeah.
but then like they brought out that character for her name escapes me, but she had like the big hammer, and they were
Mhm.
like Geomancer, Geomancer, Geo, and it's like no
Yeah.
Geomancer.
Well,
Um,
it's also cool that like one of the things that I've noticed about Square Enix is that they're very tapped into the community that plays their game and doing things that they know that the community is wanting, because like the idea of Blue Mage and just like why it even exists in the game is always so confusing. It was so confusing to me for a while.
Eric was like so baffled.
I was just,
for,
I remember
like,
talking to
a
so many
good
people,
week.
and I'm like, why is this in the game? It's a limited class. What is the point of a limited class? And people were pretty much just like, because people wanted it. Like, they wanted to play a Blue Mage, so they put it into the game. Even though it's limited, it's still, you can play a Blue Mage if you want. And a lot of people have fun playing Blue Mage, so like,
it's still,
I think
a
that
quest.
there's still what?
It's still a quest marker in Limsa for me.
Oh.
I won't touch
Oh,
it.
I picked
I
it
still
up.
have that.
I picked all of them up.
I picked it up, and you know how you get the treasure coffer or whatever with all of the gear in it? I picked it up, and
Yeah.
I threw that coffer into my retainer like
Oh, that's
inventory, and I
funny.
haven't touched it.
That's
But
funny.
I might eventually. But I know that there's rumor that Beastmaster, they were talking about Beastmaster being another limited class as well. So the idea of limited class is just it's very interesting to me. Just because of the fact that it is limited. You can't use it, and you can't queue up for dungeons with it and all that kind of stuff. So, but it is really cool that they're like, our community wants this to the point where Blue Mage, because if you're not familiar with a Blue Mage, the whole idea, and I'm not talking to you, Bryan and Lyuba, I'm talking to listeners, just so you know. I'm not talking down like you guys don't know. The whole idea of a Blue Mage is that they take the powers and use them. So they are adaptive magic. They take the magic powers from their enemies, and then they use them. And they're like, that would be so broken if it weren't a limited class,
Sure.
So
100%.
that's why they made it a limit. They're like, it doesn't really fit in the way that it works in an MMO, but we're going to put it in there because as long as we just restrict it so you can't use it to be unfair, like to have an unfair advantage, then we're going to stick it in the game. And I think that that's actually super cool.
Yeah.
And I think they're good at, it's going to come around where these limited classes are going to get content, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like Blue Mages are going to be able to do this, and then next expansion, Blue Mages are going to be able to do this, and it's like, it's kind of like the idea in Shadowbringers about the dwarven houses, right? Like,
Yeah.
only y'all can go in there. And
Yeah.
that's fine. But like, so I think that's going to kind of have to be a focus, is if they want to keep doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're going to have to start giving them some content that's kind of exclusive to them. And it might be harder. It should be. I think as a limited class, it should be almost like a savage kind of aspect, because you have to have certain abilities to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have to have 4 Blue Mages, and one of them's gonna have to have a healing spell, or you're all gonna die.
Yeah. There's a little bit more strategy when playing with a group of Blue Mages. But it adds a whole nother thing that like another layer to this game, that you don't have in a lot of other games, because it's kind of like a free-for-all, like, here, take this class and play it how you want. You just can't use it doing MSQ and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't do normal stuff with it.
Yeah, you can't do normal stuff. Blue Mages, why aren't you normal?
Be normal.
You guys be normal. Why aren't you normal? So we've talked a lot about Final Fantasy XIV, but what other games, we mentioned ESO, but like besides that, what other games do you guys find yourself playing a lot other than Final Fantasy XIV, at least right now? I know what you're going to say, but I want you to say it. I want you.
No.
Yeah, no, I
I'm
want you to
gonna
say
say
it. People need to know. What games?
They need to
Playing
know about,
husbandos at law.
they need to know about my husbandos, guys.
What you
In
playing?
both Genshin Impact.
Genshin
Yes.
Impact.
Genshin Impact.
Impact. Waifu Simulator 3000.
Okay,
the
okay.
the gotcha mechanics game. Those that I can't believe the success of Genshin. It
They
is
have
insane to
Well,
me.
thrived.
To be fair, like the characters are all very good and minus the fact that there's always the meta hammers, right? They're like, no, this is the best in slot, and you need to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And it's like, oh no. But we have thoroughly enjoyed being very casual. Like we farm gear, and it's not always like the best in slot, but it's still close.
Mhm.
We can
Journey.
still clear content. But they took their story from when we started Genshin day one. We were Genshin players day one,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, y'all
and
y'all
they
have been
just
playing for a while.
cranked the storytelling up like to 11.
Nice.
So like the whole new island, like going to Inazuma, the new island and stuff, like
Mhm.
we finished like the main story arc, and the cutscene that finished that, like we just looked at each other because it was Final Fantasy right.
Dang, that's cool.
It
That's
was
awesome.
good. And so the game itself is thriving because I think now that this game that was free to play is making millions of dollars,
Mhm.
they're bringing in more people, they're
Yeah.
getting stuff.
So how does Genshin? Because I played Genshin Impact a little bit when it first came out and everybody was kind of on it. And we were like, hey, let's check out this new game, and because people were explaining it kind of like it was like a Breath of the Wild kind of thing, and that caught me automatically. How do they make money? Is there like a real money store or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, there's the microtransactions in it. If
Okay.
you want to be like I have all the gotcha characters, you're gonna spend money,
Yeah.
or you're gonna grind and time is money. So,
So you can buy
either
them?
way, you
Yeah,
can
well,
buy enough materials to
you
summon
buy what they're called primogems, and the primogems are 160 primogems gets you a summon, right? So you summon one character, or you get one summon. So you're either going to get a weapon, or you're going to get a character
Gotcha.
of varying rarity or strength. If you do 1,600 primogems, it's a bulk 10 pull, and you're guaranteed at least one purple. Right?
Oh, okay.
And so then
the characters themselves are like common, uncommon, rare kind of thing.
No, there's only two. There's 4 stars and 5 stars.
Oh, okay.
So the 4 stars are purple, and then the 5 stars are gold.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so if you do a 10 summon, you get 1 purple. But what they do is, and this is the hard part, is they put up a character on a banner, and that banner increases their drop rate. So they're like, okay, if you summon on this banner, the drop rate for these characters is elevated by an X amount of %.
Oh.
And so you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to summon on this. And so you save your primogems from doing quests and doing events and all that stuff, but sometimes it's just not enough. And you really want that character, so you slide that credit card out and you just buy primogems, and then you go. So the pity system is 90.
It makes
So you have to summon 90 times to guarantee that you get the character on the 5-star character on the banner. So and even on the first 90, it's 50-50. So the first, you'll get a 5-star, but it's either the banner character or a different 5-star. Wow. And if you do another 90, the second 90 is guaranteed the banner character.
So how many characters are in the game? Do you know?
Right now, I think there's at least.
I'm sure she could pull it up, but
50.
I would
50.
say,
wow.
Yeah, it's up there.
But
And
the male to female ratio is awful, guys. There are far less husbandos than there are waifus, which I feel personally offended.
It's the most important thing to Luba,
right?
Yeah. And it's really cool because they all have their own elements, and you build teams based on elemental reactions, and so if you have someone who's frozen and you use fire, it causes a reaction and gets more damage, and so there's a lot of PvP aspects to it, and and we work together.
I want this on the record on our podcast that Jamie Lynn, our friend Jamie Lynn, said that
let's call her
she
out.
spent $100 on the game at one time
just to get a character.
Just to get a character.
Klee. It's Klee, guys.
I could see it though. I could see that. So Jen and I did not play. Jen and I did not play Genshin Impact, but we did. The closest to that we've done is Neverwinter. We played Neverwinter, which is the Dungeons and Dragons MMO.
Yes.
And we were super into it. And then it got
was
to the point
good.
where we were getting these purple chests. And the purple chests, they had this real good gear. And it's getting that gear it's so hard to grind out the keys to open those chests. Like it just took forever. So it got to the point where we could grind out these keys, or we could spend like $5 and buy keys
Yeah.
and open up these sweet chests and get this awesome gear.
I think it was like 2 weeks that we were buying things, and then we were just kind of like, this has to stop.
We came to that realization. We were like, we are not going to be able to do this.
No.
Like
We
Oh, okay. That makes it okay, Jamie. That it was a Twitch payout, so it wasn't your own money. That would have been your own money if you didn't spend it on that.
yeah, I remember when she was pulling for Clea, and I was pulling for her because I knew she really wanted her, and it didn't happen.
And then another game that I don't know if you guys play anymore, and I wanted to mention it, was the you guys were playing an auto grinder game.
You want to talk mobile?
What was that one? Do you guys still play that?
FFXIV, yes.
Yeah, FFXIV. There you go.
FFXIV.
That was
that while I play my other husbando game.
Okay.
FFXIV, and then we picked up a Final Fantasy one, actually. If you want to talk about that, it's
super cool because they do
War of the Visions. It's like Tactics.
Oh.
But it's on mobile, but it has a gotcha system, and it's awful.
That
now,
sucks
I will
because
say,
I love Tactics. Tactics is.
I have not spent a dime
that's
on
good.
this one.
Okay.
Tactics is. I'm gonna actually look into that because Tactics is one of my favorite. Final Fantasy Tactics, and then Ogre Battle, which was on NES or SNES. It might have been NES or SNES because there was Ogre Tactics, Ogre Battle. Those games were my freaking jam, and it's so weird because I didn't think that I would be into those kind of games, but I loved them. And I still love in Final Fantasy Tactics whenever one of your characters dies and it goes, oh. I don't know why that sound effect just stuck with me for a long time.
So with War of the Visions, they're very good at crossovers.
Oh,
so
nice.
right now they're doing a Final Fantasy VII crossover.
So they've got
Fucking
That's
sweet.
cool.
You can summon Cloud for Cloud, Aerith, Barrett, and Tifa
Nice.
as playable units, and then because it's Square Enix, they have a Gunner class. So I think
Oh.
the next collab is
8.
Lara Croft.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so weird.
And it's classic Lara Croft.
So they
too.
go-
green shirt and shorts.
They go beyond Final Fantasy with their
Yep.
collabs.
Mhm.
Like,
They
They
did
did
a
Nier.
Final Fantasy X one,
wow.
and they did a Nier one.
That's cool.
And then
well, I mean, they
think,
kind of had it in with the whole Nier thing already.
and then there's already a Thancred and a Y'shtola, so I'm thinking they're coming back for Endwalkers.
Oh, sweet.
I think
That's
that event's
cool.
going to come back. So.
If you like the feeling of Tactics, you'll probably like that one. And they have like the Time Age, which is super cool because I was like, we need this in every Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
That would be
it's
awesome.
That is
super
awesome.
nostalgic.
So,
Yeah, and then
what other hobbies would you guys say that you have? So, I know that you guys used to stream, and you've been taking a break. You don't know if you'll ever come back. You may not. It's just up in the air. We get it. I understand that feeling. I get that feeling. Sometimes when we say bye everybody, see you on Sunday and in stream, I don't know if I'll ever come back. But so it is.
You know
but
what?
is,
There's some days that are just
is
like
it
that.
a possibility that you guys are going to come back to the big Twitch screen and entertain us with your lovely couple vibes?
I think so. I mean, since I've been more active on Twitch lately, there are times where like I'm sitting in stream or I'm sitting in y'all's stream and we're like chatting and whatnot, and I'm like, I could do this again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, y'all in, and then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But no, lately, like, I've been teaching myself trades, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Like what?
I taught myself how to well, I didn't teach myself, but between me and my brothers, taught myself how to lay floors.
Nice.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did some little bit of cabinet work, like
He's putting all my
mounted
furniture together.
cabinetry on the wall,
Nice.
that kind of stuff.
Cause y'all are.
Unfortunately, I have become proficient in HVAC, which I hate.
Aw.
So basically, you're just building up your skills to be able to eventually build a house.
Well, no, they're up.
Retro's
they're
just like,
they're
I
upgrading
got
their house
this.
right now.
He's gonna go across the friggin' find an empty lot and just be like, I'm gonna build
Right
a house to build up my skills real quick.
I'm just getting to the point where even when I'm old and crotchety, I'm gonna be useful to somebody.
Okay, there you go. There you go. There you go.
He's actually just
He's
waiting.
like, oh, I
until
know
the game
Brian can do
finishes.
this, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I got you. So yeah, we've had a lot of AC problems lately, but like the last AC guy was here, like I pretty much told him what to do. I was like, oh yeah, it's this and this, and he's like,
dang.
he was like, you're right. He's like, well, my job got easier.
We know how that is because I don't know if you are not familiar with it. Both Brian and I used to work together. Brian still works where I used to work before we started doing this, and we were computer technicians. And that sounds like the equivalent of when you walk into a room or something, like you walk into a place to help a user, and you're like, okay, so what's the problem? And they explain to you the problem, and they actually know what they're talking about. And you're like, oh, yes, that does make sense. Yeah, like I love that. That's the best thing. So whatever, you're just like, oh,
bless
okay.
you. Bless you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
mean,
that is-
honestly,
yeah.
Are we friends now?
in our field, or in the field of being a computer technician, IT, just knowing the stuff that you would expect to be common sense is a gift, to be
True.
honestly.
Great.
I mean, I walked into a room 2 days ago,
Mhm.
and they're like, I don't understand. This just doesn't work. And I was like, well, it needs power.
It's sad how often that happened when I was working there too. You're just like, yeah, the internet's not working. Well, you have to have it plugged into the wall, not running from one port on your computer to another one.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't give the internet to each other. So there are times where you're just like, oh, it's like you have those days where you're like, my brain is numb. But then you have those rewarding days where someone's actually making an honest effort, and you're like, okay, and so you'll help them out, and they're usually pretty grateful.
That's awesome.
I've kind of taken on a training role with
that's
some of
good.
the new guys. Yeah, I ride with one of the new guys, and I'm like just showing him everything, and he's super appreciative, which is nice. Like he's like, they didn't tell me any of this in training, and I'm like, I know.
Yeah,
like,
that was how it was when I trained you, and that when we trained Summers. You remember when training Summers, and we were like, yeah, come hang out in our office for an hour, and he's like, are we gonna do anything? Nah.
Nah. Nah. By the time, like Summers and Gavin got in, we had already started coasting.
Yeah.
That was like, you got 1 hour of work a day, and after that, I hope you can find something to do.
You gotta find something to do.
You're gonna be bored.
So, and Luba, what about you? Have you been doing anything outside of work or playing video games? Are you doing anything else, or is that besides collecting animals?
Listen.
Listen.
Brian, now.
You guys,
I'm telling you, we need less.
yeah, Bryan and Lyuba pretty much treat having animals like freaking Pokemon because they gotta collect them all.
They all need hosts.
What is your current number of what is the cat and dog number right now?
We have 4 dogs, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cats.
6 cats, 4 dogs, and 6 cats.
10 pets and 3 animals.
And 1 child. Yeah, like.
And 1 child.
Wait, what did I just say?
You said 10 pets and 3 animals. I was very confused. I was like, what are the other 8
3
pets?
humans. 3
Is it
humans.
me? Am I the animal?
Yes,
the other 7
yes,
pets?
y'all are the animals. I said it and I was like, what the hell came
It
out
sounds
of
like
my
you're
mouth?
about to get into. Are Brian and Luba into some weird, S&M stuff
party
that we didn't
animals.
know about?
Rawr.
We've got 10 pets and 3 animals.
Gosh, Eric.
Oh, creepy. You guys don't even have a basement, or well, at least we didn't know about the basement.
Okay, so y'all
Working on building one.
Speaking
That's
of,
why you're teaching yourself all these building hobbies. I got to work on building a basement. Don't ask why.
so I know that y'all, there's a Tanya around. What games is she into? And are there any games that y'all have bonded, like, together with her?
Oh, I wouldn't say
Actually-
bonding.
There's games that they tolerate.
No.
So we despise Roblox.
Uh-huh.
There are some good games on there. Like there's like an Among Us version of
Yeah,
it.
they have like a
Okay.
really like kind of just run down version of Among Us. But they have like it's more like werewolves. Like there's a lot of different jobs, and so like different skills and stuff. But I'm talking more about bonding over because she's obsessed with The Sims,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
and she's like,
She has
so she refers to me as B Dad, right? So she's like, B Dad, I need you to help me make a sim. And as I tell her like what I want, she proceeds to tell me that I'm wrong, and then does it her way anyway. I'm like, why do I even help?
So
And then she's like, what about these clothes? And I look like some ass clown, and I'm like, that's thanks. I'm like, no, let's not do that.
and for reference, how old is Tanya?
She's 11.
She's 11.
Trying to
11.
breathe here.
She's 11. So we're talking, yeah. And so Tanya is she's funny because she's 11, but she dresses like she is 25.
Going to the club.
Every time she's
no,
got
no,
every
going
time
to
we go out,
Starbucks.
no, yeah, she's going to Starbucks. She's going to a business meeting. She is a freaking lawyer, living in New York
I got
City.
things to do.
She got boots with heels. They
Dude,
might get some fur on them.
I
tights.
am banning heels because I'm pretty sure if she had actual heels on, I'd have holes in the floor.
That's funny.
She
Shoes off at the door.
everywhere.
Shoes off at
She's
the
gotten
door.
to the point now where she is the same size as Luba. Like they're the same height. So they just swap clothes.
Yeah,
Constantly.
I'll shop at Forever 21. It's like, I'm just gonna borrow like your pants and your shirt. I'm like, okay, cool. Give me your sweater. Like,
So they
Oh
have
my
these.
gosh.
You
we
both
bought
shop
these
at Teen
shirts.
Gap.
Yeah.
They have these shirts that are like like solid colors, but then they have this like weird kind of like print.
what are you talking?
It's these shirts that y'all swap. And yesterday they were both wearing them, but they look like composition books.
Our workout shirts.
Yeah, they look like
Composition
composition notebooks. And so I'm like, what are you two composition notebooks doing in here giggling? And they're like,
That's
Oh,
funny.
man.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like it's almost like an
Marvel
animal
kind of-
print, but it's like a lighter. Like if the shirt's gray, it's just a slighter, different color gray. Yeah.
And probably the one something I feel like we would be doing our listeners a disservice if we didn't bring up Luba-isms.
Oh yeah.
So
yes, let's do it.
Luba is from Russia. How old were you when you came from Russia to America, Luba?
8.
8. So she grew up until she was 8 years old in Russia. So she did a lot of learning. A lot of learning happened. And then
In the last
she
3 years.
A lot of learning is still happening. Okay.
and so then she came to the U.S. And so something that is really funny that we have discovered over our friendship with Luba is that she doesn't understand or know a lot of American euphemisms or turn of phrases
Slangs.
or slang. And so there is a lot
Or
of
icons.
icons. There's a lot of instances where, but Luba doesn't let that stop her from acting like she knows.
Oh hell no! She confident. She a confident
That's
girl.
the important thing is she doesn't let her stop her from answering the questions that are asked when she doesn't know the answers. So one of them was a good explanation or a good instance was when we were playing. I think we were playing like apples to apples or something like that. And one of the things on the card, it was it might have been Cards Against Humanity. That makes more sense. And
I was like apples to apples. Who is that?
well,
game?
because we were allowing Tanya to play.
Oh, I see where you're going with that thought. Okay.
So, and there was just, she didn't know anything. So she would read stuff. And it was one of those things where it's like she would read what's on the card and we would all laugh our asses off. And she was just like, no idea what she had just said.
Who, Tanya or
Tanya. No,
Okay,
Tanya. No, but
Both.
which one? Yeah, sometimes both. But then what had happened was there was a card that one of the options on the card was the Hamburglar. And So of
Guys,
course,
it's 2 words.
Tan-
I knew both of them.
It's
Two
two
words.
words, yeah.
2 words.
Tanya, of course, was like, I'm gonna ask my mom what this means. So she says,
There's
"Ma-
4.
Mom, yeah. She's like, Mom, what's a hamburglar? And so we all just kind of
We
look
just look at Lyuba.
Lyuba, and we're just like, yeah, what's a hamburglar, Lyuba? And Lyuba very confidently turns around and says, oh, it's someone who steals ham. And like,
From the fridge. Of course.
logically, I mean, sure. But then we had to be like, no, the hamburglar is actually
A mascot.
a mascot from McDonald's. Like, and then she was like,
He
oh, okay.
stole hamburgers.
He stole hamburgers, which
You
have
were
no
close.
ham.
Close.
They have no ham.
I don't.
Questions in my mind. I was like, as I'm explaining this, I'm like, how do they get in the fridge? Are they a burglar and then they be like so many questions?
And then
So if you've played, I don't think we need to go into detail, but if you've played Cards Against Humanity, you know that there's some words in the card game that even I don't know. Some
we
of
have to
the-
look up ourselves.
Yeah, we're like, what does this mean? You're like, oop, didn't want to Google that. So if you don't know what the word is, Luba probably doesn't know what the word is, and her
Words that I always know.
her interpretation of them are amazing.
And without going into it, we one time had to explain to Luba what, and I won't quite say it. I'm gonna beat around the bush here. I'm gonna give you a kind of hole that
It's 2
a
words.
paladin would be interested in. Because figure that out. But anyways, and she was just like very, very like.
Yes, JB. Yes.
Jamie, oh,
Is that glorious?
It's glorious. Yeah, there
Glorious.
you go. It's a very magnificent hole, and she was just like, "Oh, what's this?" And we were like, "Oh, okay."
we can't explain it. Your daughter's here.
But yeah, so there's been a lot of things over time, and I think one of my favorite ones was actually when Jen accidentally did a Lubaism, and this was recently. This was when we actually hadn't seen them since the pandemic had started. So it was the first time we had actually spent time together, and we were able to see them. We all got vaccinated. We were all past our 2 weeks after the second vax, so we hung out, and we were hanging out together. And Jen was saying, we were talking about something, and Jen was like, she was trying to say,
I was trying to be like, take it with a grain of salt, but I wanted it in my head. I was trying to think a grain of what's bigger than a grain of salt. Instead of going with salt, I went with grain, and I said, take it with a loaf of bread.
and then Luba was just like, yep. And then I was like, okay, we have to stop. And we have to make sure that we tell Luba that is not an actual term.
We had to course correct. It was like, wait.
Whoa,
That's not
whoa.
real. Because I could see LittleLyuba in her brain
Writing
like,
it down.
Writing it down. She's like, I'm gonna wow somebody else with this one.
Yeah, I can't wait to use this at work tomorrow. And it's just
Imagine, oh my god, Jen, I
the
can't
whole
believe you
loaf,
taught
guys.
me that. It was wrong.
it was like
laugh.
if you guys have seen Kung Pao, where they're like, we taught him wrong as a joke. We could totally do that with Luba.
Oh.
We're gonna be like, yeah, we just teach her the wrong euphemisms or
Oh man.
phrases and
You
stuff.
know, no one would correct me because for like 10 years I said the grapevine, and it's the grapevine.
Oh, the
Nobody wanted to correct
grapevine.
me because they're like, she's Russian, guys. Just let it happen.
She just doesn't
So I
know.
would be walking around and be like, guys, the whole loaf, and they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
take
loaf.
that with a loaf of bread.
Take it with a loaf of bread.
It was interesting
We were
to see how Jen's brain worked there too, because you would think that if she was wanting it to be more poignant than taking it with a grain of salt, like something more intense. So in my mind, I would be like, take it with like an atom of salt, like something even smaller than that, right?
Oh, I went bigger.
But Jen didn't think salt. She associated it with grain,
I
which
don't
is
know why.
bread, and then she associated it with something bigger than that. Take it with a loaf of bread. And it was just. I was like, that's how Jen's brain works, and I love it.
we were somewhere, I forget. We were checking out somewhere at like a gas station or something one time, and she had water, and she was drinking it, and she was all as she does, He's like,
Wow, how dare
and she goes, and she's like, oh, it went down the wrong throat. And not only did I look at her, but the cashier was like, I've never heard that before.
I had actually my friend from high school, Zip. He said that too. He said that it went down the wrong throat. So you're not the only one that said that, but I also thought it was weird. I was just like, how many throats do you have? Yeah. How many? What kind of Russians are built different, you know?
Yeah. 2 throats, big stomach. What else we got going on?
One's for food, and the other one's for vodka.
Vodka.
Oh, that went down the vodka throat. You can't put anything down there except for vodka.
Oh,
Really gums up the work.
wow.
Anyway, so the final question that we like to ask here on this JenEric Endtalkers, and I say we like to ask, but you guys are the first people we're asking.
We asked each other the last time.
If there was one thing in particular about Final Fantasy XIV that you would like to change, what would that be? Ooh. Something that just really, like, you think that it's cool, but you would like it to be differently, or maybe you hate it and you would like it to change. But what would that be?
I think for us, because of how Luba likes to play the game and stuff, like she has kind of that anxiety of being in dungeons with randos and stuff. And for a while, it was just us. Like, nobody else was playing. Not anybody from our old guild. Y'all guys were on WoW. Like, so it was kind of us. And so I'd have to, like, work her up to it and be like, all right, ready? Let's do it. Okay, I've got you. I'm the tank. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Everything always happens.
Oh, no.
And so I think maybe changing the trust system to be hybrid.
Okay. Oh, so that you
her
can.
and I can play, and then we can
Yes.
fill the roles with two NPCs, right?
Yeah.
I think
love
that would suit our play style a bit better. 'cause
Absolutely.
it's usually just us.
I agree.
When we started, I don't think the trust system was even there.
No.
I had to
so-
drag you
yeah,
into dungeon.
So that was so wholesome when they implemented that, because I think it kind of was like a wow moment, because I'm like, okay, other people are having the same issue.
Right.
Yes.
Like, and sometimes it can get toxic. I mean, most of the Final Fantasy community is good.
Yeah.
But there's every once in a while there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Brian.
A Brian.
Whoa.
We've definitely run into our share of toxic people.
Brian is a good noodle.
Brian is not as toxic.
I am toxic in a closed circle when it's
In a
just
closed
us.
circle?
Well,
No,
and then
he's
sometimes when
toxic.
we're running a dungeon and somebody is being a dick, and then at the very end of the dungeon you say some snarky shit before we leave.
Oh, that
Petty
one,
toxic.
that was an accident. I want to say I didn't really want. I don't know how I kind of blacked out. I woke back up and I had typed that, and I was like, "Whoops."
Whoopsies.
Well,
The person deserved it,
To
though.
be fair, we were running a trial, and I was like, "That's a stack marker. You need to be in the group." And every time that guy got a stack marker, he ran to the edge of the arena. And I was like, so at the end, I said, "Good." I said, "Good job, everybody. Well done." Except for the guy who kept running away with stack markers.
Yeah. Because we explained it.
That's
We
just
explained it to them.
sass.
We explained it to them, and then they kept on doing it, even though we explained it. But and then Luba, do you agree with Brian, or do you have another one?
I think I want to see more worlds from different Final Fantasies, like, or at least get more backstories on it, because they do a lot of collabs. But I'd love to see like a Final Fantasy VIII or a Final Fantasy VII come in and just get a little bit more backstory, or the ability to visit like their land almost through a dungeon.
Like go to Midgard.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea, because that's something that, I mean, we have like the Crystal Tower, you know, and it's Final Fantasy XIV's version of the Crystal Tower. But that would be awesome if we could, because I was actually thinking about something similar to that too when we did the Final Fantasy XV crossover event where Noctis was going through his portal. I was like, I want to fucking go through the portal and go to his world real quick.
Yeah.
Like,
that'd be
let me
cool.
pop over there and do a quest where we're in some familiar area. You know, that would be badass, you know?
Make it a quest in a dungeon and then just call it a day, and it's enough. They have the layouts, they have all the games to fall back on. I think it would be super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's an instance away, right? Like they don't have to build an entire continent. It's an instance away. You run a dungeon, or like she said, a dungeon or a duty, helping Cloud like blow up a reactor or something. You know, like.
Because it would also,
doing...
it would also kind of serve as, you know, people who are like, oh, I want this full 3D remake of Final Fantasy VI, right? If I could just get a Final Fantasy XIV dungeon where we somehow go into, Final Fantasy VI, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity with Garleans and the Garlean Empire and all that Imperial stuff. Like, there's a lot of opportunity with Magitech and everything for them to do something like that because that was such a big part of Final Fantasy VI.
Yes.
That would be really awesome if we. I mean, I really want to see Final Fantasy VI Heroes because we've seen Kefka and Ultros, but I would love to see like Locke or Shadow. Oh my God, please!
Well, I think you just dip on you out of nowhere.
Square Enix, weave Shadow into the ninja storyline, and I will love you guys forever.
That would be cool.
That would be so cool, and his dog.
That's the trust system, right? You run the trust system with Shadow, and he leaves halfway through the dungeon.
No, the whole dungeon blows up, and then you have to find the rest of your party. You just have to find everybody again.
He's just like, no thanks, and just leaves.
Bye. So. What was the chance? What was the percentage of that happening?
I don't even remember.
Because there was. I remember that was. Unless you guys, in case you guys didn't know, in Final Fantasy VI, there was a percentage that Shadow could just leave your party, like he was just gone. And because you would go and you would unlock him and you would have him join your party and then he would just be like, bye. And he left. And then you would be like, okay, well, now I don't have Shadow anymore.
There was no way to like find him, get him back, anything. It was just like, that's it. That's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Which was a super cool idea. The fact that just Shadow was so almost gray that he was just like, I'm going to leave anytime I want,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that would be really funny too. If he was just like, part of the ninja storyline, bring Shadow in, and then just have him bounce at some point. And just
have him bounce at a critical moment.
He's like, you know what? Nah,
I'm out.
And then when he just appears into a ball of thick of smoke.
Luba is replaying 10, and she just got through the grind of getting Yojimbo.
Oh, and then she found out she had to pay him.
Yeah, she's like, so she had to like go out and like grind money and sell like everything she owned for like a week or two just to get him, and then now she just goes in one-shots bosses with him, and I'm like, now do you see why he's so expensive?
Nice.
Every time though, I would always be so salty whenever I was just like, I'm gonna use the Yojimbo summon, but I have to fucking pay him to even get him to come out. Jesus, asshole.
And then he leaves the moment he sees you has 0 go.
He just turns around and
deuces him out.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it was fun. It was real. It was fun, but it wasn't real.
What
fun.
does he even do with that money? He's a summon.
Right. No, I mean his fight in Shadowbringers was fun. He's got a really cool fight.
Yojimbo
yeah,
fight?
See, which
fight?
He's an optional, I think.
Oh, okay. We need to do that.
But he was fun. It's all about money. It's all about money.
That makes sense.
The whole mechanic is like piles of money and like jumping around.
Well, we still haven't done the ones with Kefka and Sephiroth and all those things, so we need to do those. Like,
we have so much we need to do once we finish.
If you guys, we will let everyone know when we plan the day that we plan on doing that ahead of time, because if you guys want to see me giddy and like screaming like a fangirl, you guys need to be there for when we run those, because I am going to be so excited to fight Kefka, like so excited. I got excited when I saw the lightning whelk. Fucking like that has been reused a few times in dungeons, but just the lightning whelk made me happy.
Yes, Kugani Castle. That's it.
That's right. Oh no, we did Kugani Castle. We had to.
I think so.
I don't remember it then.
I just, my memory is so bad. Like,
just
trying to pack in like all the dungeons. Like even when I help you guys with dungeons, I'm like, I'm every time I'm the Gandalf of the group. I'm like, I have no memory of this place.
But it comes back.
But I've been here before, but I have no memory of this place.
That's funny.
So yeah, Jen's gonna find somewhere for us to rate it as the end of our show. We went a little bit longer than we usually would, just because we're talking to our best friends. What do you expect? But so where you guys are, I mean, do you guys have anything to plug? If normally this would be the part where you guys would plug whatever you're doing. I know that you guys are on hiatus and stuff like that. So is there anything that you would like to plug?
I mean, as you have on, it's just my Twitter. That's kind of where I post like anything really. Usually
and
between
Retrocade64.
Yep.
At Retrocade64. I'm gonna try to bring in a lot more like Final Fantasy stuff now that I'm actually really, really like hardcore playing again because I was kind of casually playing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, oh, I gotta finish this all stuff. So I'm actually doing a lot of stuff. So I'm probably gonna do that, and then I don't know if Luba wants to do her Insta. No, she's good.
I'm literally the quiet person, like, and then I live through you and you're socializing.
Well, you should, if you guys want to see more of them, you should definitely follow us because we plan on playing more games with them in the future. They join us for Final Fantasy a lot.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I've been really wanting to have the two of you over and do a Jen and Luba versus Bryan and Eric game of Mario Party.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we don't want to be friends anymore.
We don't want. I want to
down.
end this
It's
friendship,
going
guys.
down.
This is how it's. I just want to be done. No. Me and you would be on a team, so we would be ending our marriages,
Oh, shit.
and then we could finally be together, Bryan.
That's true.
There's that at least.
Tone raised.
That's
He's like,
it. All the whole plan comes to light. Settle
anyway,
down, Elizabeth.
We are going to raid. We're gonna give Kath is rad. I was gonna say Kath is raid. Kath is rad. We're gonna give them a raid. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. This will be up tomorrow on everywhere you can find podcasts. So make sure you guys check that out. And we will be back on Sunday. We're gonna be picking up the trial that we're about to start, where we're gonna fight Elidibus. So make sure you don't miss that because that's gonna be a lot of story and fun. But anyways, we will see you all very soon. Everyone have a great night, and I'm gonna send it over to Dorf to tell you guys to end the show and tell you guys bye. So thanks everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. JenEric Endtalkers is recorded live on twitch.tv/JenEricLive, where Jen and Eric also stream a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, as well as a few other games. And as always, keep your forge hot and your ale cold.